You think Henry VIII broke from the Catholic Church because of his religious beliefs. He didn't. He broke an entire nation away from Rome because one woman refused to be his mistress. And once he started, he couldn't stop. Most people know the outline. Henry needed a son. His wife of over 20 years, Catherine of Aragon, had given him only one surviving child, a daughter. The Pope refused to annul the marriage, so Henry broke from Rome, declared himself head of the church, and got his way. A simple story about one man's ego reshaping a country. That's the story everyone learns. It isn't the full one. Catherine of Aragon had originally been married to Henry's older brother, Arthur, for less than 5 months before Arthur died. When Henry married her 7 years later, the church had to grant a special dispensation because marrying your brother's widow was technically forbidden in Scripture. By the late 1520s, after multiple miscarriages and a marriage of nearly 2 decades, Henry became convinced this was the problem. He found a line in the book of Leviticus that seemed to confirm it. "Cursed is the man who marries his brother's wife." He decided God was punishing him. So in 1527, Henry asked Pope Clement VII for an annulment. This should have been simple. Kings had gotten annulments before. But there was a detail nobody puts in the simple version of this story. Just months earlier, the armies of the Holy Roman Emperor had sacked Rome itself, and the Pope was effectively their prisoner. And the Holy Roman Emperor was Charles V, Catherine of Aragon's own nephew. The Pope wasn't just protecting church doctrine. He was terrified of angering the one man who currently controlled Rome, and that man was being asked to watch his own aunt cast aside. In 1529, the matter went to a public court at Blackfriars in London. Catherine appeared before the court, knelt directly in front of Henry in front of the assembled judges, and delivered a plea insisting she had come to him as a true maid without touch of man. Then she rose and walked out of the courtroom, refusing to recognize its authority over her marriage at all. She never returned to argue her case again. Henry didn't get his annulment, not for 6 years. So he changed the entire system instead. His chief minister, Thomas Cromwell, engineered a legal campaign to sever England from Rome completely. Parliament passed a series of acts between 1533 and 1536, stripping the Pope of all authority in England. The most important, the Act of Supremacy of 1534, declared Henry himself the supreme head of the Church of England. And to make sure nobody could challenge it, a new Treason Act made it punishable by death to deny the king's authority over the church, even in speech, even in writing. Sir Thomas More, Henry's own former chancellor, refused to take the oath. He was executed in 1535. Then came the real payoff. Monasteries across England owned more than a quarter of all the cultivated land in the country. Before a single monastery was touched, Cromwell's agents conducted something almost bureaucratic in its coldness. A nationwide survey called the Valor Ecclesiasticus, systematically valuing every abbey, priory, and church property in the country. It was, in effect, an audit of the church, conducted specifically so the Crown would know exactly what it was about to seize. Under the new law, the Crown began seizing them one by one, their land, their gold, their silver, their income, folding it directly into the king's treasury. Smaller monasteries went first, in 1536. The larger, wealthier ones followed by 1539. By the time it was over, more than 800 religious houses across England and Wales had been shut down. It wasn't just a religious reformation. It was the largest transfer of wealth in English history, and Henry's government controlled every part of it. Not everyone accepted it quietly. In the autumn of 1536, tens of thousands of people in northern England rose up in what became known as the Pilgrimage of Grace, the largest rebellion of the entire Tudor period. They demanded the monasteries be restored and Cromwell removed. The king's general offered them a pardon, and once the rebels disbanded and went home, Henry broke that promise. Roughly 250 people were executed, including the rebellion's leader, a lawyer named Robert Aske. Today, the ruins of dozens of English abbeys, grand stone buildings that had stood for 400 years, still sit hollowed out across the countryside. Monuments to a war that was fought over money, dressed up as a war over faith. So the next time you hear that Henry VIII broke from Rome for love, remember it wasn't love that built the Church of England. It was geopolitics, inheritance law, and the largest seizure of property the country had ever seen. A king who wanted a son ended up reshaping a religion and enriching a crown for the next 500 years. Nearly 500 years later, the Church of England is still the established church. The reigning monarch is still formally its supreme governor. Every coronation since 1534 has carried the same quiet inheritance, a title born not from faith, but from a divorce Rome refused to grant, and an empire that happened to be holding the Pope hostage at exactly the wrong moment.